I am Mrs. Thompson. I am the art teacher at the Innovative Learning Academy at Elizabeth Smith. And you probably heard my voice last week when we made the color wheel out of the plate. And this week we are going to draw an armadillo together. It's going to be a directed drawing, meaning we'll draw together one step at a time. And then we will color him with crayons and markers. If you are in second grade, you are going to color your armadillo with either warm colors or cool colors. If you are in third or fourth grade, you are going to use analogous colors to color your armadillo. Analogous colors are colors that live next to each other on the color wheel. They have to be right in a row all together, and you'll choose 3 of them. So you'll pick a color, and you'll get the color to the right of it and the color to the left of it, and that is your analogous color scheme. Okay, and we'll talk more about that as we get a little more specific in it. So let's go ahead and get to work. Okay, first we are going to fold our paper in half twice. We're going to fold it from side to side. Some people call that a hamburger fold. Okay. And then you can open it back up if you want. And we're going to fold it again in half from top to bottom. Sometimes people call this a hot dog fold. And then open it back up. And now I have a line that shows me the middle going up and down and side to side. And this will help me when I'm drawing my armadillo, so I know where to put my lines and the size to make all the shapes. So first we are going to draw the armadillo's shell, and we're going to start in this top left corner, and it's going to be a curved line that goes from about this area here to about this area here. It doesn't go up very high. And I'm going to do it kind of light at first, because remember, draw it light until you know you have it right. Okay? And then I'm going to have sort of the same thing in this section. It's going to come down like that. It comes down a little more abruptly. And again, then when I'm happy with it, I can go back over it. And it is important because it's so hard to erase if you press down hard. Then it's in this section, it's going to come down just a little bit there. And what did I just do wrong? I drew dark. Luckily, it turned out pretty much okay. And then I'm going to have a line that curves down and kind of up and towards that line there. So I'm going to start off doing it kind of light. Kind of reminds me of a turtle shell a little bit. Alright, and then in this section, it's almost reminds me of like a little bean, because it's going to come down and up and come right back there to meet that section. Alright, and I don't want to make that area too dark because I'm going to be drawing the head here on top of it, and it's going to overlap. So, speaking of the head is going to be kind of an oval shape with a little kind of snout that comes down, almost like a beak looking thing. Don't you love all my amazing vocabulary? Beak looking thing. And then I'm going to erase where the shell is inside his head. I need a better eraser. And I'm going to erase where I was sketching out that shape, and I'm just going to keep the parts of it that I want to keep and look right. And I'm going to fix this. I feel like this comes in a little too much. I'm going to kind of smooth that out a little bit there. And so now we have our armadillo's head and his shell. Now we're going to draw his ears. His ears are going to be here and here. All right, this one will come kind of out and up and then back down. And then this one's going to overlap his head just a little bit. It's going to come up and out and kind of down. And then, kind of like a dog's ears or a bunny's ears, it has that little kind of flap's not right, but that skin that's there. And then I'm going to erase that because you wouldn't be able to see through it. And look how cute he's looking. All right, now we're ready to do the eye. The eye is going to be right about here, and it's an oval, and that's the dark part. And I would be able to see just a little bit of this eye there. And then I'm going to have just a little line right here that shows you where his mouth is. Looks kind of like he's smiling. All right, next we're going to do his tail. His tail is going to start from here, and it's going to go up and kind of meet at a point. It's possible that your armadillo's tail is going to go off the paper, and that's totally fine. In fact, mine probably is because I didn't leave a lot of room for it. But it's going to kind of come up, and it's going to go off just a little bit. If you have enough room on your paper, it would just come to a point, kind of like this. Okay, kind of like, I hate to compare it to this, but kind of like a rat tail is what it kind of looks like. And then his tail, same thing here. And then again, it would just come together and meet at a point. And then his tail has the little, this is why it reminds me of a rat tail, these little lines. All right, he's looking really good. Okay, now we're going to work on his feet. He's going to have 4 feet. And at first, they're going to look kind of like little booties or socks, okay? I'm going to kind of come down and around and up. And then this one, because it's a little farther away, it's going to look a little smaller. Same thing over here. I'm going to do the one that'll be closer to us first. And then the one that's a little farther away. All right. Then we need to add his little claws. And I wouldn't get too hung up in the number of claws that you're drawing. I would just draw whatever number looks appropriate on your armadillo so it doesn't look like he has too many or too few. I did 3 on each foot. The example I looked at when I found this picture had 3, but if they look too small or it looks like there's not enough of them, you can completely add, make 4, whatever number you need to. Okay, now we're going to make the little bands on his shell. First, we're going to make a band that comes right, which is a line, but right here in the middle where this fold is, and it's going to be curved just a little. And that curved line helps you see the form of the shell, so it looks a little 3-dimensional. And then I'm going to have another one here and another one here. And then I'm going to have a couple on the other side. Oop, and I went over his head a little bit. Should have known better than that. All right, and I'm going to make just one more here because he doesn't have quite enough there. Okay, and now we're going to work on the background. We're going to draw the horizon line behind him. It's kind of like almost like a hill. And then we're going to have a sequoia cactus right here. And it has its little arm coming up. And a rounded top. And these can be, I don't know if you guys have been to the desert, like to Arizona or Utah, but these can get as big as like a tree for us. I've never seen one in person. I've only seen pictures of them. And then we're going to have kind of a jagged kind of cliff or mountain in the background. and then another one over here. I'm going to kind of start at the top here, and this is going to be a little more kind of jagged. This is more like the ones you would see in Utah. So those of you that have been into Utah are probably like, oh, I know exactly what she's talking about. And then we're just going to make a few little puffy, happy clouds. Place them like Bob Ross. And a little sun peeking out behind it. And another little cloud here. And then I would be ready to go over it with my Sharpie. Okay, so now I'm going to trace over everything with a black Sharpie. I'm going to start off with him in the shape of his head and his eyes. The dark part of his eyes I will color in with my Sharpie, and everything else we're going to color with crayons and markers. If this was a normal school year without all the COVID corona stuff going on, we would paint this with watercolor, but unfortunately it's not a normal year, so we're going to use crayons and markers. Now if you are virtual academy, you have a watercolor set, you could, if you don't want to color it with crayons and markers, you can bring out your watercolor set and paint it. And if you don't, no worries, because in person at the school we are using crayons and markers. So if you only have crayons and markers, you're in the same position we are. And I'm going to go over him. I'm going to go over his little bands on his shell, and these bands on his shell are going to become important, and you'll see why in a few minutes when we're about to color him. And see, I'm really going a little too fast there, I guess, because I know you're waiting for me to finish. But you, of course, would want to take your time and do your best work. No reason to rush. All right, now, if you go to Elizabeth Smith, I know you know exactly what's coming next, and some of our friends at the other campuses you may know as well. But now we are going to erase any pencil you can still see. For example, there's a little pencil peeking out right here where the ear is, so I am going to erase that. And it just gives it a little cleaner, more polished look. If you have your pink pearl eraser or your white pearl eraser, and I just gotta find them here, excuse my arm, camera, there we go. White pearl is my personal favorite. I know some of the other art teachers like pink pearl. Either way, they're good. And if your mom or dad got you some other kind of eraser, no worries. If you're using the one on the end of your pencil, that's fine too. You can see I was doing that just a few minutes ago. All right. So now my armadillo is pretty much ready to go. I also have one that I drew earlier when I was practicing, and I think this one actually turned out a little cuter. I've noticed some of the bands go in a different direction on this one. But you get the idea, and now we're going to talk about coloring our armadillo. Alright, now I am going to color my armadillo. I am going to use a combination of crayons and markers. Those of you in Virtual Academy, you can use whatever it is you have at home. If you want to do the same thing we're doing and do crayons and markers, you can. If you have something else you want to use at home, whether it's oil pastels or watercolor set, you're more than welcome to add the color any way you want. But for those of us here in person, we are using crayons and markers. What we're going to do is you're going to take your markers and you are going to outline whatever it is you're coloring. For example, I am outlining this little cactus here. right. And I need to add the little needles on the cactus. I'm actually going to use my black for that. If you have a skinny marker, that would be best. But I'm just going to make the little glow lines, the little needles on the cactus. And it's funny because just last night I was watching a video about, it was like one of those nature videos, and there was a falcon sitting right on a sequoia cactus. He was sitting like right on the sequoia cactus, and I was just amazed he could do that and it doesn't hurt his feet. Alright, so there's the little needles. And now I'm going to take a green, whatever green I choose. And of course, if you want to get really creative and make a pink cactus or whatever, go for it. Alright, this one's Granny Smith apple. And I'm going to color neatly. I'm going to choose a direction. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stay in the lines. I'm not going to scribble. And I'm covering the white space. Keep in mind, I can do it pretty fast because I have been doing it a really long time. You'll probably have to go a little slower. Those of you that are here doing in-person learning, I'm going to give you the rest of the class period to color it, and you take it home and you can finish it there. Those of you doing virtual, you can hit pause and you have all the time in the world. So there's that. Another example would be doing the cliffs. And remember, these are those kind of orangey red rocky cliffs. So I've got my brown here. It's like an orangey reddish brown. And I'm outlining the cliffs. And we're not trying to be super realistic here, so we're not going to have to try to add any texture or anything to it. Remember, texture is how something feels. And if you make it look like it has a texture, but it doesn't really, that's called invented texture. Alright, let's see here. This one's called Bittersweet. So I'm going to give that, it's a little orangier than I wanted, but that's okay. And again, I'm going to color nice and neat. And let me fast forward for you so you don't have to just sit and watch the Miss Thompson's coloring show. Okay, so you can see I colored my cliffs. I used this kind of orangey brown. It's called Bittersweet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer another color on top of it. This is Mahogany. And if you remember, if you've gone to my YouTube page and watched my Coloring 101 video, you saw how to layer and blend colors. If you didn't, I recommend doing so. Now this Mahogany, as you can see, is very similar to the Bittersweet I just used. So it's not going to give much of a change. You can see it's a little bit, but it's not very dramatic. If I would have tested this out on the back of my paper or on a piece of scratch paper, I would have saved myself some time. So you live and learn from your lessons. But I'm going to try to find another color that'll be appropriate, but will give it some more depth and some more interest. So let's see, so Mahogany wasn't the best choice in the world. Maybe just good old-fashioned brown, okay? And I'm going to color right on top of it. And I'm not trying to color solid because I want some of that Mahogany and Bittersweet to show under. I just want the brown to kind of be on top just to add a little bit of interest. And it's probably hard for you to see on the camera. If you could see it in real life, you can definitely see it in real life, but on the camera it looks very subtle, if almost not there. And then I'm going to add at least one more. I'm going to add red. I don't want it to be pinkish red. This is just good old-fashioned red, and let me see. Oh, that's what I wanted, brick red. Alright, try to Get my red back put up, and now I'm going to go over it with that as well, and I'm just kind of adding it here and there where I feel it's appropriate. I'm coloring in the same direction. I'm not scribbling. Just because you're layering and blending does not mean you're scribbling. And then if you could see this in person, I wish you could, you could see the different layers, and it just looks a lot more interesting than it just being one flat, boring color. All right, now I'm going to fast forward and color everything else except for my armadillo, and then I'll show. Okay, now I said I was going to color everything but the armadillo, but I wanted to show you something real quick in regards to the direction you're coloring. You can see with the cliffs, I just chose an up and down direction, but for the ground, I'm actually going to kind of go in the direction that the ground goes, like if you think of it from like a hill, like having the hill. And so I'm changing the direction. It's a little more appropriate. It kind of suggests that hill going up and down a bit, and it adds a little interest, so it's because it's different than this part. Everything's going straight up and down. It just tends to be a little plain. So I just wanted to show you that real quick. Okay, so as you can see, I've colored everything on my armadillo picture except for my armadillo. Now, this part is for second grade only. If you are in 3rd or 4th grade, you need to fast forward to the time that you see on your screen right now. Because again, this part is just for 2nd grade. 3rd and 4th grade are going to fast forward to the time that you see on your screen right now. But for 2nd grade, what you're going to do is when you color your armadillo, you're either going to color him with warm colors or cool colors. So for example, I pulled out some cool color crayons. Remember, cool colors are colors that remind you of things that are cool or cold, like water, grass, snow and ice, things like that. Warm colors are colors that remind you of things that are warm or hot, like fire and the sun. And there are colors like red, orange, yellow, and pink. So when you color your armadillo, you're either going to only use warm or you're only going to use cool. One or the other. Okay? I'm a little undecided. I think I'm going to use cool colors on my armadillo because these browns are very warm and take up the majority of the space on the paper. So I'm going to go with cool colors. But you could go with either. You just can't mix them up. You're either just cool or just warm. So I'm going to take my cool colors. This is turquoise blue. And I'm going to color the stripes on my armadillo. And these are actually, in real life, this is kind of like his armor that he has to protect him. Kind of reminds me of a roly-poly, the way it's like in sections. And so when you color in the direction that these little bands or stripes or lines are going. I wouldn't go against it if I were you. You can make an actual pattern, you know, like an ABC, ABCD, ABAB, AABB, you know, whatever kind of pattern you want. And again, if you choose cool or warm, you have to stick with it. Like I couldn't all of a sudden grab orange and try to add orange to it. All right, now I'm going to fast forward and finish coloring him, and then we'll wrap it up for 2nd grade. Okay, now I finished coloring with crayon, and I'm going to outline with marker. And I actually kind of did it backwards. I should have outlined with marker first and then colored with crayon, but it's okay. Better late than never. So I'm going to try to kind of match the colors, the color of the marker to the color of the crayon, but they do not have to match, so don't feel like you have to. If you want to use contrasting colors, meaning they're different than each other and they stand out like a complementary color, those have the highest contrast that you can have. So purple and yellow, blue and orange, and red and green. All right, now I'm going to fast forward with the outlining of the marker. All right, and now the marker's done, so this picture is complete. Now be sure you fill out the Google form located in my virtual classroom so that you get credit and get your participation grade for the week, because that is important. You need that. So again, go to my virtual classroom, which is where you found this lesson, and be sure to use the Google form so that you get credit. If you are, that's just for Virtual Academy. Those of you that are in person, you don't have to worry about that because we saw each other in person and you got credit. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye. All right, so this portion of the video is for 3rd and 4th grade. And if you're in 3rd or 4th grade, you are going to color your armadillo with analogous colors. Okay, now let me show you what I mean again by analogous colors. Analogous colors are 3 colors that are next to each other in the color wheel. So for example, you can see my little cursor bopping around here. If I chose red violet, then I would choose its 2 next door neighbors, red and violet. So these 3 colors would be the color scheme for my armadillo. If I chose yellow orange, I would choose the 2 next door neighbors, which would be orange and yellow. So these 3 colors would be my color scheme for my armadillo. You can see another one here where they chose blue green and green and blue. And so basically you could do any 3 colors that are together. It has to be the 1 color and its 2 next door neighbors, the one to the right and the one to the left. So let me try to switch back over to my armadillo. So I am going to choose, I think I'm going to try to do like a blue-green. I'm looking at my crayons here. And let's see, turquoise blue, that's kind of a blue-green. Look at that, blue-green. How perfect is that? All right, so then I would need green and I would need blue. So my color scheme for my armadillo would be blue, green, green, and blue. Okay, so that's one example. Another example, let me go back over here to my color wheel. I think I want to do maybe something more like this. Like I have my red. The red could be my main color that I'm going with here. So I've got my red crayon. And then it would be like a red orange. So I'm looking for my red orange in my crayon box. And then on the other side is red violet. So let me see if I can find a red violet in here. Oh, look at that, perfect. Okay, so let me switch back over to the camera. So I have my red orange, and my red violet. So they are going to be my color scheme for my armadillo. And when I color my armadillo, oh, actually, you know, I made the same mistake with 2nd grade, and I almost did it with you guys. We want to do our markers first. So I have my red. The closest I'm going to have with my markers is orange, and that. So it's not perfect, but it's close. All right. So I'm going to outline everything with my marker. And I'm trying to kind of go fast because I don't want you guys to be bored, and I don't want to waste your time. But you don't want to rush. Now the pattern you choose is completely up to you. You don't have to do it you don't have to do it in the exact order they are in the color wheel. When you're selecting your colors, you do. And it's just 3, so it's an ABC pattern. ahead and fast forward to finish the outlining. Okay, so I finished outlining with my marker, and now I'm ready to color with my crayons. I am choosing to match the crayon somewhat to the marker. You don't have to do that. Now, you do have to stick with your color scheme, the colors you chose. You can't just all of a sudden throw a green in there. But you don't have to color, if you outlined it in red, it doesn't mean you have to color it in red. You might choose to color it with orange or something. So you have to stick with your color scheme, but you don't have to match them up. And I'm coloring in my armadillo. I'm trying to do my best and make it look nice. Color in one direction. Think about what that direction should be. Alright, so I'm going to fast forward and finish coloring here. Alright, so as you can see, I've finished coloring him. He's outlined and he's colored. He's ready to go. Oh, I see something I missed. Do you see what I missed? Let's see if you can find it on there. It's kind of subtle and small, but it is there, and I definitely missed it. It's right here. I missed that little section, so I'm just coloring it real super fast. All right, so anyway, be sure you, if you're at the Virtual Academy, be sure you fill out the Google form on my page so you get credit and get your participation grade for the week. You do need to have that. So again, be sure you go back to my virtual classroom and fill out the Google form so you get your participation grade. Okay, if you're doing in-person learning, you don't have to worry about that because we saw each other face to face and I saw that you participated. Okay, so thank you. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.